Welcome to Talking Voiceovers with me, Gail Goslin. Today we'll be talking to Antowan Nöthling, radio presenter and voiceover artist. We're going to chat about the full-time business of voiceovers, how the industry in South Africa is different to other places around the world. Welcome, Antowan. Nice to meet you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's nice to be with you.
So tell us about yourself and how you came to be in voiceovers.
I kind of progressed into it over the years. I started doing community radio when I was in high school, and then from community radio, still community radio, but I prefer to call it student radio. When I went to university, I went to do varsity radio. From there into commercial radio, satellite radio, then to a different country to do commercial radio there. Came back to South Africa, did commercial radio here, and when I came back to South Africa, that's when the voiceover thing tickled me. And I moved into voiceover, found a few agents, ended with a major commercial agent, and yeah, everything grew from there. It's what I do now for a living. I've moved out of radio.
When you were a kid, did you want to be in radio? Is that what you wanted to do forever?
My first fake radio recording was when I was about three and a half.
Wow.
And my parents kept the recording. I wanted to study drama. My folks said, no, there's no money in drama. You need a solid degree, something that you can actually use. So they said no to drama. And I ended up studying BCom, just a straight BCom at Tux. And then I was working from my first year at Tux. I was working in radio there. I actually stuffed up my first year completely doing radio. But looking back, it's actually something that I started doing in school. So it was actually, the career path was already set. Yeah. So it wasn't that bad messing up that first year, but I finished my degree, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, you have priorities, then it was radio.
And I mean, when you study BCom, a big part of it is marketing and business management, all subjects that you can use when you're moving into voiceover in the end.
Tell us, what is the difference between presenting on radio and doing voiceovers? Isn't it the same thing?
Well, there's a whole lot of theater involved in both, I guess. Yes, absolutely. If you're doing a radio show, you step into a radio personality of sorts, especially with music radio, which is what I did for years. It is a performance. Yeah. So, and that's what voiceover is. It's a performance for whatever purpose it may be.
Okay, except the one is more ad lib and then the other one is completely scripted?
Well, technically music radio nowadays, I mean, everything's playlisted. You get your live reads and stuff to read. So that's a whole lot of exercise for voiceover. Got your promos to read and stuff like that. So if people get behind the scenes in radio, most of it is scripted nowadays, except talk radio, of course.
Ah, there we go. That would be the ad lib part, I would suppose. Yeah.
That's the ad lib part. Yeah. Which is tough to do. I think I've got a lot of respect for talk radio guys as well, especially late night radio jocks. When the audience is thin, they have to talk in between calls and keep it sounding interesting. So I think those guys, it's a good training ground if you want to talk for a living.
When you're in daytime radio, do you know how many people are listening, or you're just talking out into the ether? Is it different?
You get a preliminary sense of what's happening a week afterwards with testing, because they continually test, audiences. And now with technology, they've become more and more clever. Some of the testing or research people use radios, like custom radios for cars and stuff, that's actually recording what people listen to during the day for research purposes. So out there in South Africa, there are people that's using devices that have been custom made to track, the average audience listening behavior and so forth. But you get a precise reading every 3 months or so. You've got an average audience of about 1.4 million or 700,000 or 300,000, whatever this, they can drill it down to shows. It's very, very scientific. You can watch documentaries about it online, YouTube.
Oh, I will do that.
It's a tough one, especially if you're doing on-air presenting at a commercial station, because ratings matter. So, when you have that briefing with a program manager every now and again, it's nerve-wracking because it can determine contracts and it can determine whether you're going to move into a better slot or not. Yeah, it's tough. Luckily, I'm not in there anymore. So, my nerves are not shot anymore.
So it's a lot less stressful doing just plain voiceovers than radio.
You could say so. I mean, that element of being judged is a little less, but you still have that anxiety of, you only know if a client likes you when they rebook you. That's the benchmark. So if you get your clients to come back, then you know you're doing a good job. They don't give you feedback on, how many product sales they had and stuff like that. It's very rare that you get that insight. The rebook is, if you get booked again and again and again, then you know you're doing something right.
Yeah.
But you have to ask as well. Are you guys still happy? Should we change something? You have to work together.
So is that something that you do? You follow up with your clients and get back to them and say, hey, I
I
haven't heard
do
from you for a while.
You do the follow-ups, but I mean, if you're in a session, you ask, what's happening. Are you guys still happy? You have to ask. You shouldn't assume. The biggest thing is the rebook is the confirmation, basically.
When you're in a session, are you talking about live sessions or in-studio sessions?
Doesn't matter. If you have contact with the client, then it's a good thing to ask how it's going. Just a general chat and check up on the relationship to make sure it's healthy.
Yeah, that's a good
important.
idea. Yeah. Do you do a lot of studio recording these days after the pandemic still?
Much less. Most of my work is at home in my home studio, but I'm sitting it's not in my studio booth. I'm just outside my studio booth.
Me too.
Yeah. But most of my work is in this space that I'm sitting in now, like 99% of it. Yeah.
And what is that mic that you've got there in front of you?
This is a Rode NT2A.
Nice one.
Yeah. And what are you using?
I've got the NT1A right there.
It's reliable mics.
It is.
Australian made. It's very, very good.
As I'm using the NT USB in front of me right now.
Oh, nice. Now the tech, I mean, geez, with the pandemic, maybe a little bit before that, I mean, when podcasting started to really take off, studio tech became so accessible and the pricing just became better and better. It's amazing. I don't know if you noticed the same thing. I mean, you probably do the same, go on Take a Lot or whatever and go and check out what's the latest, what's happening with this. Where are we headed in terms of interfaces? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I don't really need it because I'm not a musician.
It'd be nice to have the gadgets.
Yeah, for us, I mean, probably the biggest and most important element would be the microphone and your digital interface with your computer, and then your internet connection.
Oh, yes.
I mean, yes, like the moment they gave us a line upgrade, I was like, I have access to 200 megs internet? Are you serious? Cool. And then a friend of mine in New Zealand phoned me and said, hey, I've got gigabit internet. Really?
And just when we think we're catching up.
Yeah, life has a way of keeping you humble.
Yeah, well, in Europe, sometimes they still think that we're on ADSL or something. I had a client the other day going, "Oh, well, you're in South Africa, so I'll understand if it's not going too well." I'm like, but no, I've got 50
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when we still had dial-up, the big recording interface for doing remotes. I mean, places like the UK and the States, they were doing remotes for years before us. I mean, for years. And ISDN used to be the audio, that digital connection, global connectivity connection. It's still like a telephone call, but it's a digital connection. And I actually had an ISDN line booked with Telkom.
Yeah.
Said, bring it, install, get this thing done. And then suddenly the news came out, ADSL is available. So, okay, cancel the order. Now give me ADSL. Okay, let's do that rather. That was 2004. Yes. And now here we are with fiber.
Thank goodness.
The world is changing.
Yeah. Do you do audio dramas?
I do. Yeah, frequently. Yeah.
And live as well?
Yeah. Nope. No, it's all recorded at studio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no. It's a bit of a logistical thing. But it's coming. I'm sure it's coming.
Why not?
Pretty soon.
If you're enjoying this interview, give it a thumbs up. Did you eventually get voiceover training, or did you just pick it up as you were doing radio presenting?
No, I didn't go for voiceover training. When you're with your program manager and you listen back to your show, that's the worst thing in radio. And the same with voiceovers to a degree. You shouldn't love your own voice too much because you need to be judgmental constantly. You need to know where your mistakes are. Breathing is probably the first thing that you learn in radio, how to not breathe in the wrong spot. And then, because people hate people that breathe a lot. And when you do radio drama as well, you pick it up when you listen back to radio dramas. You go like, how the hell was I breathing like that? So I've learned to step back during radio dramas, step back from the mic, sometimes a little bit too much, just to not get that breath so accentuated. It's because they never edit it out. It's too much editing.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things I learned in radio and with voiceovers is how to breathe properly, make it easier to edit. Yeah. Especially with voiceovers, you breathe in certain spaces. You don't breathe while you speak. Normally you can breathe while you speak. You can that kind of exhale while you're talking. And with voiceover, you don't do that. You kind of, and then it's a quick breath, just to make it easier to edit. I never had any formal training. I think very few people do, because formal training in voiceover is a rare thing. It used to be rare. Nowadays, I see there's a lot of classes and stuff they do in Joburg and Cape Town. Most of my voiceover training I got from guys overseas, big name voice artists. I do a lot of YouTube training. I call it training now while I'm talking to you, but it's actually just out of interest. How do they approach voiceover and different? Probably the biggest challenge is making it productive and efficient, especially if you're recording from home.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been recording from home for more than 8 years now. Studio efficiency is a big thing. And in the process of learning about studio efficiency and how to do things, how to mark your mistakes in a long recording, if you're doing training videos and corporates and stuff like that, you get a rhythm and you mark your mistakes so that it stands out in the WAV file and everything. But there are other things that you can do, like automated processes and things with specific tools, costs a bit of money, that makes your life so much easier. And that the only way to learn that is from somebody who's figured it out before. And it tends to be guys willing to share, and usually overseas guys. There's people in the UK and America and so forth, and they share a lot of information. So if there's anything that I can really communicate to somebody that wants to get into voiceover and do it properly, is follow folks who've been there and who've, run the gauntlet.
We have lots of experience, yeah. Do you think your voice ages?
No, it doesn't. Not that much. I don't think so. Most of the kid characters in cartoons and stuff are done by people 50 and over, 60. If you go and check, it's career cartoon voices. And so I don't think your age and your voice are that tied. When you get really old, it starts to crack. I don't think your voice ages as quickly as you do in your face.
So you can work a lot longer than on-screen presenters, for sure. What are your words of advice for somebody starting out in voiceover?
This industry is very tough to crack. When you approach an agent or somebody in the industry and you ask them, how long is it going to take me to be self-sustaining and to make a living out of voice work? Many people who do voice work do other things in this country. Generally actors, they've got either soapies and stuff to sustain them. Very few people, can afford to do voiceovers for a living. In other words, you pay all your bills, you send the kids to school and stuff like that. It took about 3 years. I started while I was doing radio, but it took about 3 years to crack it, to be able to say, okay, now we've got something. It took about 3 years. Now, in that time, if you don't have anything else, and remember, you need to be in an industry where you can say yes to bookings, because it doesn't help somebody saying, hey, you've got a great voice, we want to use you for an ad. Would you be able to be there tomorrow? And you go like, no, I've got to do this. And okay, fine. Let's do it the day after. Sorry, I've got to. That doesn't work. So you've got to be in an industry and do work. That's why people in Hollywood do waitering jobs, because it's easy to say, okay, I'll be there. With voice work, it's the same. You need to be able to say yes to bookings and stuff.
Then you've got the platforms, and also you've got 2 languages that you can use. So you've got to build up as many opportunities as possible.
Volume matters. You need a sustainable volume of work so that you can go month to month. And you need to keep your finger on things, track the graphs, see which months are going to be quiet, because you need to put away money every month. It's a lovely, lovely industry to work in. The people in here are very, very creative, like special souls. You know what I mean? It's mind-blowing to be part of it. You need to be sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into.
That's the issue with being freelance in any industry, I would think.
Yeah, there's no security. You need to pay your taxes, and you need to put the money away. Somebody needs to write a book
about the business of voiceover in South Africa.
You should write that book.
Do people still read books?
or they watch YouTube
They
videos.
watch
So here
YouTube
it
videos.
is.
There
If
we
you're
go.
watching this YouTube video now, the big things in voiceover. Number one is if you're starting a voiceover, it's going to take you many moons. So get your support ready. Do a lot of recordings, get your demos right, that kind of stuff. That's important. Then finances, make sure that you track it and track it properly. Do a spreadsheet and make your graphs and everything. Especially if you do it over many years, you get those waves that you can see what's happening when, and you can look back. It's very interesting if you look back in history with your financial graphs, monthly incomes and everything. You can see whether you're going in the right direction. You need to make sure the curve goes up. You can see all those historical trends. It's very, very interesting. But you need that long look back to know what's going on.
You need to know how to run a business because it's a business.
You need to know how to run a business. You need to know the pandemic is interesting. How the pandemic wasn't that big business killer in terms, for voice work that we expected it to be. The first lockdown was like everybody ran for studios. I mean, everybody went to buy a microphone. And I remember all the calls coming in and people were like, what do we do? Because we were going to have to work from home. Luckily, I was set up already. But the interesting thing is it's not that big a business killer, for voice work.
Because there's a lot more video and online work that needs to be done.
Exactly. It's a very strange time to live through a pandemic and you think everything's coming to an end, but everybody is so resilient. It's amazing.
We adapt.
It really is amazing.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it dragged the industry forward, because we were lagging like 10 years behind the States. And now, finally, everybody here is
catching up,
basically working from home.
Yeah.
Yes. It's amazing. Sorry, I get excited about
these
things.
Fabulous. It's an exciting topic.
But yeah, so we're here. And now I think we're in a position where we can do interesting things. I think the world is also becoming more interconnected because we're all online more than ever before. Some people are getting Zoom fatigue, but I mean, the world has got a little bit smaller to some degree.
Absolutely.
Now we just need to get that institutional memory at the agencies back to where it was. I've been blessed. I've been working in the industry for many moons, and I still consider myself young, but I'm over 40 now.
Me too.
It's a scary thing, especially if you're too old to do anything else. There's people.
You're never too old to get started and do something new.
If you're moving on to something different and you need to build that network, it's going to take time.
It takes time, yeah. What is your favorite type of voiceover?
My favorite type of voiceover, 30-second spots would be that. 30-second spots, it's easy to record and it is easy to edit and easy to send through. And the direction on 30-second spots are also easier to follow. But I've become fond of doing corporate jobs, inductions, training videos, stuff like that. There's a rhythm to it that's nice. Yeah, you learn a lot. It's interesting. I think any curious mind finds it interesting because you get to see stuff before the world sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes there's a non-disclosure agreement. You need to, but things that other people are yet to learn.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And do you do your own editing?
I do. My philosophy in my voice business is it's got two parts to it, two elements: clean audio and speed. If you send me something, I will do my level best to get it to you the same day. If it's short enough, if it's not a massive training video, 30 or 40-minute recording that takes a while to edit, I never send dirty audio to a client. It's always edited and cleaned. It's ready to use. You can just plug it into whatever video you're going to use. You can do the spacing yourself and everything. Breaths are gone, fluffs are gone, clicks are gone, everything. It's neat and tidy.
Do you master it as well?
Same day.
Or just cleaned?
I send two files. It's a raw file, which is the edited but raw audio, unprocessed, nothing. There's no EQ, nothing on it. So I send that, and then I send what I consider to be nice processing enhancement. Yeah.
And what program do you use for editing?
Adobe Audition. What do you use?
Also Adobe Audition.
I still need to nail the YouTube thing because there's so much that you can use it for. That's where I need to find my next rhythm in terms of voiceover, is to just have my channel filled with stuff because I've got so much to show and share, but some of it you can't really share. It takes time to do the videos. You're going to edit this afterwards. You know how it goes. I have such a lot of respect for what you're doing, because I know that it takes effort and time, and they make it sound nice in half an hour snippets. But yeah, but I can learn from you.
I have a team.
Really?
Yeah. Because the
Okay.
editing takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. It doesn't feel
So,
like it will, but it really, really does. Where can people reach you if they want to ask you questions?
well, it's very simple. I've got my website. It's www.antowan.com. It's ANTOWAN.com. And contact details, everything's on there.
Twitter, Instagram?
And Twitter, of course. Twitter is easy. It's my name, Antowan Nöthling. So Antowan Nöthling, but my name, at my name and my surname, and it's on Twitter. Or just type in Antowan. I'm sure you can find it there. That's it. It's my email address is my name @gmail.com. Yeah.
Hopefully
All
one
right.
of these days we'll get to meet in person.
Well, we should. I think there's a industry gathering that needs to happen as soon as this freaking pandemic is over.
Absolutely.
Everybody, just coffee or whatever, somewhere in Joburg.
Yeah, we'll have a talking voiceovers get together.
Yes, that would be awesome. Yeah, get everybody, all the voice artists, everybody that you talk to, because it would be such a psychological release after this pandemic. So,
but we need to get back to face to face.
I completely agree. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Cool.
Lovely chatting with you.
Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Thanks, Antowan. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. That was Talking Voiceovers. If you don't want to miss the following episodes, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell button.